Hello and a very warm welcome to the late breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking, back with another midweek episode. We're in February now at least. We were on Sunday, weren't we?
Yes.
Can't even say that as the intro. Never mind.
Doesn't matter because it's the month of livery reveals and Formula One things are actually happening this month. So we can be very excited. Borat reference there at the start.
Side note.
I'm just going to turn the camera off.
Well, we're out.
We're done.
We're done already. It's a minute in. Side note, I'm really enjoying the success of the Livery O2 event that all the F1 teams are now just having separate unveils of their cars. Is that defeat the point of that?
I think it probably does defeat the point of that. Okay. But we did say when this came out, didn't we? They're going to just bring last year's car with some paint, possibly some paint on it. If you're Alpine, probably no paint on it. And they'll just go, we'll do it another time with the actual car.
Yeah, so we're all going to see the liveries and then be like, and then see them again. Anyway. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. I reckon Alpine will come out with the best livery of all time and then release the car that has no paint on it. Because that's very Alpine.
Here's what we could have done. And here's what we're actually going to do.
Speaking of Alpine, we're going to be talking about them and Pierre Gasly a little bit later on in the show, with Pierre Gasly giving the team a top 5 target for the season. We'll be discussing whether we think that is realistic or not. We've got a new game as well that will close out today's show. Very exciting.
Ooh.
But we're going to start with a bit of best case, worst case. So we've picked out some drivers and we're just going to present the case of what's the best version of this season that we could realistically see from this driver. And then on the flip side, how wrong could it go for them? To be clear, these aren't predictions. So if any of these things do or don't happen, please don't come back and be like, oh, you said that. No, stop that now. So we're going to start with Sam. What's the best season Sam might have this now? We're going to start with a world champion, Max Verstappen. What's the best and worst case you can see from him this season?
I mean, best case is obviously he retains that title. Arguably, he will repeat how good 2023 was for him if the car is going to be somewhat that decent. But I do think that is probably an unrealistic expectation for Red Bull. The car simply isn't going to be this dominant force. It would be a bizarre choice in terms of investment and time and resource to put all of their energy into improving this current car and its current guys. It will be more kind of, focusing on that 2026 transformation. So Red Bull are going to have to work with very small upgrades. Now we'll have, of course, more developmental time due to the fact they finished third in the constructors. But again, see that going towards 2026 rather than 2025. We saw how good Max Verstappen could be, even with a car that wasn't dominant, even with a car that wasn't the best car. He won so many races towards the back end of that season, shockingly so, Brazil being an incredible example of just the talent that he has. So I think a world championship is still very much available to him. I still think that is the best case scenario. Perhaps he has a teammate that is able to support him more regularly than what was available to him in the 24 season with Perez. Lawson hopefully comes out swinging, feels comfortable in the car, grows into the role well, and is finally what Red Bull have been looking for in that second seat. But it looks as though a best case scenario for Max will be a coming out on top of what is a tight title fight, and maybe he wins it with a couple of races to go. I can't see it being a super dominant season. Worst case scenario, though, the car is an absolute shocker. Controversies cover Red Bull, and it means that he becomes incredibly uncomfortable. Due to the fact that they've lost a lot of key personnel. They have no design understanding. They do what Mercedes have done now, and they go, well, we don't really understand the concept of our car. And actually, the car that's been built around Max Verstappen over the years starts to move away from the style that he enjoys driving. And the Adrian Newey effect is lost faster than we think. Therefore, he might never get a chance to win a race this season. Red Bull might step back completely from McLaren and Ferrari. As much as I think it's unlikely, it is possible. And it means that he grows frustrated. He drives in an erratic way that we've seen Verstappen do before. He becomes frustrated that he can't have the success that he's had previously. And maybe there are more collisions. Maybe there are more silly thought processes that lead to bizarre maneuvers like a dive bomb up the inside. Maybe we see our first race ban for swearing. It really could go down a cliff that heavily if Max Verstappen's seasons unravels. We know that he is a incredibly passionate man, something that I think works in his favor 99% of the time. But I mean, this is very, very much unlikely, but definitely a worst case scenario. I wouldn't be surprised if it is much closer to the positives of Verstappen fighting for the title throughout the majority of the season.
From one world champion to another world champion, Harry Eade.
I am a world champion.
Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, I see.
Presented by Harry
World
Eade.
champion.
My bad.
So best case for scenario I've got for Lewis Hamilton. I've put Ferrari competitive. He challenges for the title. I'm going to say win it, but I think just challenging is good.
He was quicker than Leclerc in the tyre test yesterday.
For goodness sake. For goodness sake. I saw this and I was like, I'm going to kill all of you on Twitter. Stop it.
I knew that would wind you up.
Well, you'll enjoy this because he was a second and a half slower than Leclerc today.
Oh, he's washed.
That's it. It's game over.
On day, he's
done.
washed.
He's absolutely washed in last year's car on tyres we're testing for next year, you bunch of morons. Anyway, Ferrari are competitive. Hamilton challenges for a title. And I've put here, he's a match for Charles Leclerc. I don't want to say he whoops his ass. I just think best case, he's a match. Given where Hamilton's been, I think this is a best case scenario for him for 2025. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. This isn't the year for Hamilton, is it? This isn't why he signed for Ferrari. He signed for 2026. If they are competitive and he can win a title with them, that is a bonus. Win a title this year, that is a bonus. So any wins or even a title challenge this year is the best case scenario, because I just don't think that's what he signed up for. Worst case scenario, I've put Ferrari are also competitive again this year, but he struggles and Leclerc duffs him up. Because I think if the Ferrari's crap and Hamilton struggles, it can be masked behind it's the car, etc. If the car's good, but Hamilton struggles, that's not good, because that's the form that he's sometimes shown over the past couple of years, continuing into Ferrari, and if Charles Leclerc beats him, that's the worst case for him, because I think confidence that I think he certainly lost a lot at Mercedes in the past couple of years, but even in this pre-season, unveiling of being at Ferrari, he certainly has regained motivation, confidence. Just already seems like he's found a new love for the sport, or refound his love for the sport. If he gets into a situation this year where the car's good, it can fight for wins, but he's struggling. That's bad. That's bad times for Lewis Hamilton.
All right, I'll take on Lando Norris. Not on track because I'd probably beat him, but
fair enough.
Lando Norris. I have confidence in myself. I think I could take him.
I think you two in a game of bowls would be very interesting.
Don't know if I've ever played bowls.
I bet he hasn't either, so that's why I think it would be great.
Wow, that's one for the future. Anyway, Lando Norris, best case scenario, he wins the world championship. He wins the drivers' championship. But outside of that, and I think regardless of how he wins it, it would be a great season nonetheless, of course. But I think there's a way in which he could win it that would be an absolute best case scenario, which is he improves on all of his flaws from 2024. He improves on his race starts that were notoriously fairly weak throughout all of last season. Maybe he comes out ahead of Max Verstappen, going wheel to wheel with him, which I can't immediately remember him doing that really in 2024. So, and he's also able to further improve versus Oscar Piastri. So I think there is like a version of events where he has really worked on everything that held him back a little bit last season. And he comes out a better version of himself, and he can look at the 2025 season and say, I was the best driver. The worst case scenario, I think, for Lando Norris is Oscar Piastri becomes McLaren's future. Now, I'm not saying it's likely, but we do know that year 2, Oscar Piastri was closer to Lando Norris than year 1 Oscar Piastri was. And that makes a lot of sense because Piastri was in his rookie year. He's gone into his second year. He's got more experience. What if Lando Norris, what we've seen of him so far, despite being very good, is his ceiling? What if Piastri still has more to give because he's still only about to enter his third year? If Piastri can keep up that improvement and Lando Norris can't, and Piastri, let's say, wins on points this season, then suddenly McLaren might have to look at that and say, Piastri could improve even more. Maybe he should be our future. And even if Lando Norris sticks around, maybe it's as not a second driver, but definitely not as the first driver. So I think that's the best and worst case scenario for Lando Norris. Going back around the circle, Sam, Esteban Ocon, of course, new team of Haas this season. What's the best case scenario for him?
Do you want to know something fun about Esteban Ocon?
Sure.
Always.
He is going to be in a movie that's releasing.
What's the movie called?
It's on Netflix. It's untitled. It's not the title's not been released, but he has got an IMDb credit.
Untitled again.
Poor boy.
I heard it's just called Dropped. Yeah, imagine. And I've seen a part of a trailer where he gets out of a car and hugs a lady and then walks off and gets back in the car. So he is.
Oh, that's top tier acting skills.
Yeah.
Question of the week for next week. Who was that lady?
What film is Esteban Ocon in? Esteban Ocon, right? Yeah, best and worst case. Removing the movie scenario, he's off to Haas now. Immediately, best case scenario, he cements his form that he had a couple of years ago where he was up against the likes of Alonso and it was strong, where he was up against Gasly at his preview and it was strong. He becomes Haas's team leader and it solidifies him as a mainstay at a team for many years to come. He's had a bit of a topsy-turvy career as Esteban Ocon. Even when it got to Alpine and he kind of thought maybe he's found his home, that security felt like it didn't really last too long. Now, Haas look like they are a team reborn. Komatsu is absolutely cooking. They've got 50 new hires and they know what they're doing with themselves finally. They're profitable for the first time. They should come and learn some notes from late breaking. We'll show them how to be profitable.
No.
By a few pennies.
Too profitable for a taxman.
But yeah, Ocon has a chance here to become a team leader, a real team leader, not someone who is learning from Alonso, not someone who is on par with Gasly, but someone who can now be the mainstay at a team for a long, long time. And if he reaches the same performance levels that maybe Hulk was able to do last year, which I think Ocon is capable of at his best, then he could be the driving force that puts that team regularly into strong points finishes. Maybe there's a podium in there if there's a bit of chaos, bit of carnage, and he allows Haas to be in that fight with Aston Martin and supposedly with Alpine, if the quotes from Gasly, which we're coming on to, are correct, we could get a monumental fight for that kind of fourth, fifth place in the championship. And Ocon could be the protagonist in that. Ocon could be the leading force in that. And I think that it proves some doubters wrong. I think there's a lot of people up and down the Formula One world who think that, he's just kind of there. He's just not the worst, so he hasn't been dropped yet. And I disagree with those accusations. I think Ocon is very much deserving of his place in Formula One, but maybe kick-starting off with a new team is the case where he goes, look, I'm here to stay and I'm more than good enough. Worst case is he proves those doubters correct. They get exactly what they want out of it. They go,
That's the classic shout out to the haters. They were actually spot on.
Yeah, the haters really knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
He's got hands.
He's got hands. He never saw it coming. He goes to Haas. Behrman is a force to be reckoned with unexpectedly, and he loses on points to a rookie, which would not be ideal for someone as experienced as Esteban Ocon is. He doesn't settle with the car, and essentially he gets dropped. He gets himself maybe a season in Haas, and if he's not living up to those expectations, there is every chance that they turn around to him and go, sorry, Esteban, we thought you were going to be delivering a bit more than you have. And you've really not. And that would be Ocon's career over. I think it's so unlikely, but he is one of those drivers that if it goes all Pete Song for him, then it very quickly could end his driving career in Formula One. That's how to the line Formula One could be. That's how ruthless it could be. So he needs to make sure he shows up. He helps Behrman. He is a team leader. He beats Behrman on track. And he doesn't fluff his lines, essentially, because if he does, there is every chance he is out of here.
Message to all Americans: if something is going Pete Tong, it means it is going wrong.
That's Cockney rhyming slang for you folks.
Harry, we've already discussed his teammate. What about Liam Lawson?
Lawson, best case scenario for this year, he is a solid, dependable number 2 for Max Verstappen in a competitive Red Bull. In that he picks up a win or two along the way. But for the rest of the time, he's bringing up the rear in a championship fight that Red Bull are involved in. and bringing home points where needed. If Verstappen isn't there, the unlikely event Verstappen isn't there, he can hopefully pick up the results instead. So that is the best case scenario for year one at Red Bull, his first full year in F1, which is mental. I think that's the best case scenario for Liam Lawson. His worst case scenario is that he's like Sergio Perez, and I mean that, Sergio Perez fans, don't hate me. I mean that with all the respect in the world. But I mean it, if he's like Perez at the end of... Stop covering your face, Ben. He's like Perez at the end, by the end of 2024, because he'll be given time. Not a lot, though.
How much?
Because despite the fact that Red Bull gave Perez quite so long, I think it worked in Perez's favour that he was more experienced, bit of a veteran of the sport by this point. It worked in his favour that for the most part Red Bull were dominant, and it was only in this last year, well, if you exclude 2021, which he didn't help, but it was year one at Red Bull. For the most part, they were dominant and picked up constructor championships with him. Red Bull aren't going to be Red Bull are very unlikely to be in that position this year with Lawson. So whilst he'll be given time, he can't afford to be where Sergio Perez was at the end of 2024, because I think we will witness a return to ruthless Red Bull. And they love a mid-season driver swap, as we've seen many a time. So I think if he is not showing enough, again, I'm not trying to say he should be winning races all the time, but if he's not showing enough, I think the worst case is he gets dropped mid-season because he's being at the level that Perez was at the end of 2024.
I'll round out the segment with Carlos Sainz. A side note on this, have either of you seen Carlos Sainz's reaction to James Vowles speaking Spanish?
He was shooketh.
Man was absolutely shooketh.
Probably because of how poor the accent was.
Yeah, he's there like,
why are you making these noises?
Yeah, what words are coming out of your mouth? Have you also seen the news that there is an 18 plus rated episode of Drive to Survive coming out?
What do they do in it?
Speculation that it will be James Vowles and Carlos Sainz's contract negotiations.
Oh, Lord.
I don't want to know what's 18 plus about that, but Carlos Sainz, best case scenario, we don't ever watch that Drive to Survive episode. Best case scenario is he establishes himself as the team leader whilst Williams are preparing for 2026. If he can do this early on in the season, if he can get off to a really good start versus Alex Albon, that will be a massive advantage for him going forward. And look, on track, let's face it, unless Williams have pulled off a miracle, Carlos Sainz is going to have the worst car he's had in a number of years. Even if Williams improved quite a bit on where they were last year, it's still going to be a downgrade for Carlos Sainz. Bear in mind that Carlos Sainz's second worst season in the sport was when he got 46 points for Toro Rosso in his second year. There's a good chance that this will either be Carlos Sainz's worst year in terms of points or his second worst year. So in that respect, it kind of doesn't matter how bad it gets. Like if he ends up with 70 points or ends up with 20 points or ends up with 10 points, it's still going to be a massive downgrade on last year. So he just needs to be in a position where he is confident going into next year and he can fully establish that it's his team, because it's something that he hasn't really had to this point in his career. The worst case is kind of just the opposite of that, where he can't do what he's tried to do a few times, which is really make a team his own. Carlos Sainz, as we very frequently say, does a solid job against some very good teammates, did a very good job against Lando Norris, against Max Verstappen, against Charles Leclerc. He's had some really tough teammates. Nico Hülkenberg, throw him in there as well. Like he's had a lot of tough teammates in his F1 career, and he has been able to hang with all of them, but he also hasn't been able to dominate any of them. Like he hasn't come out convincingly ahead of any of them. If that continues with Alex Albon, then Albon's experience is going to help him, and maybe going into 2026, it still feels like Alex Albon's team. So Sainz needs to prove something that to this point in his career, he hasn't been able to do. Okay, we're going to hit our first break on this episode. On the other side, we've got 6 more names for best case, worst case. Welcome back, everyone. Sam, we're over to you again. This one, we've already discussed his teammate, but Oscar Piastri, best case, worst case for him.
Well, champ, you mentioned it yourself. Worst case scenario for Lando is almost a best case scenario for Oscar Piastri. He becomes the future for McLaren. He is a world champion. He develops all the areas that were weak about his second year in Formula One. No, he's not a rookie anymore. He is an experienced driver. We can't use those excuses anymore of, oh, he's still got time to learn. He should be up to speed now. This is the year that he should be starting to really throw punches at the top level. And he's got the mentality for it. The kid is so well trained when it comes to pressure that he just absorbs it. You know, I'm not quoting Alex Shearer again.
I thought it was happening.
Pressures for tires. And Oscar Piastri knows it. The guy delivers whenever he needs to, but now's the time to deliver on that raw speed, the ability to lead from the front, to not have to cut through those around him because the qualifying has been a mistake. Best case scenario is those mistakes are gone. They're rid of. He is up there with Lando Norris on the front row, pole positions on many, many races, not having his one, maybe two wins on a lucky day. Cast your minds back to when Lando and Verstappen crashed at Austria, and it was George Russell that picked up the win. That should have been Oscar Piastri's victory, right? On a best case scenario, they fall straight into Piastri's lap. No, he's already in front of it on a best case scenario. He's leading.
Pace to win that one as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he's already in front of it. He doesn't need to worry about someone crashing or recovery to have a victory. Best case scenario is Oscar Piastri comes out in Australia at his home Grand Prix and he is flying and he is in it the entire way through. And if he can match what he did in the mid-season in 2024 again, but improve his start and end, the anti-Tsunoda, as we like to call it here on the show, then there is every chance that he is in with a shout of taking the world title. And as you already mentioned, Ben, being the future that McLaren need, or maybe don't need, who knows? Don't know what side of the fan base you're sitting on. Worst case scenario, the mistakes take hold. We see those start to really kick in. We see the qualifying mistakes go further. We see that he can't match the pace of Lando Norris. And I don't think he can be defended by the excuses that he got last season. And he would very much settle into a second driver role in McLaren. No bad thing for McLaren. He's still a fantastic talent. He's still a brilliant person having a team. I don't think he'd be able to do enough to get dropped. I really don't think it could be that bad. Regardless of a worst case scenario, I don't think he's going anywhere. But it does mean that it would stunt his future, I think. I do think it would stunt his end goals, his ceiling in Formula One. And we see him not being up there fighting for wins. You see him not being there with Lando Norris picking up podiums. I think worst case scenario, he would be closer to the likes of Lawson rather than up there with Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, which is not where he wants to be. That's not where we want him to be. So, yeah, worst case scenario, he's just a podium filler at best. And that is not what any young driver wants to be in a top team.
Harry, this could be an interesting one. Fernando Alonso.
The neck.
Best case scenario, his neck
Takes over the world.
Yeah. Yeah, this is tricky. Best case scenario I've gone for Fernando Alonso this year is that the Aston Martin is as good as it was in 2023. And I include the start of and end of 2023. I think if that is where they are, because there was quite a dip in the middle for Aston Martin, I guess. Well, I say middle. Austin wasn't really in the middle, was it? That was quite terrible. But Austin and Mexico were bad. But it started to pick up again towards the end of the year. He got the podium in Brazil, etc. Overall, a very competitive year. And I think that is the best case scenario for Alonso and Aston Martin, because I've already said this, they too are not focusing on this year. So if they rock up and the car's actually really good and they can fight for podiums, it's all a bonus because they're not really concentrating on this year. And that's why I kind of say it almost doesn't matter if the performance does drop off, because they will not be focusing on trying to develop the 2025 car, because everything is on 2026. So that, I think, for me, is their best case scenario. Their worst case scenario is that the form continues to decline from 2024. And I know they had some rough moments. Again, it sort of picked up towards the end of the year. The middle part of the season was rough for Aston Martin. And I think if it continues to go down from there, again, not even from like a developmental point of view, although that is a concern, because if they cannot, develop a car, it's going to be a bit of a worry for 2026. But I just think from like morale all around, and for Alonso himself, I know he is focused on 26, but you're going to have a real hard job convincing him that it's going to be okay in 2026. If this year is terrible, it's going to have to be a lot of zeros on that extra paycheck you give him. So I think that's worst case for Alonso if it just continues to get worse, because I just think from like I said, like from a morale point of view of the team, despite all the promise of it, if this year continues to be worse again, and we've 23, 24, 25, it's just a downward slope, then I think it's going to be a real tricky one to pick themselves up and get ready for 26 for. So yeah, it's an odd one to say that, because for Fernando Alonso himself, best case scenario is that he's world champion another 5 times this year, because that's how he works. But I think for realistically, I think that's probably the best case for them, because it is all eyes are on 26. Do
you think there's a risk with Alonso that he runs out of patience too soon? Because we're seeing it with McLaren.
This is what I'm saying. I think that's why the decline again from 24 is going to be really tricky. I'm not saying I don't think he would leave.
I think the risk would be higher if he had other options.
Yeah.
There, and I don't think he does.
He doesn't. So I don't think he'd leave. But I just think because a happy Fernando Alonso in a competitive car is a scary, scary piece of work. A miserable Fernando Alonso in a really rubbish car.
That's still pretty scary, actually.
Well, it is
everyone else in the garage.
Yeah, exactly. Not for the drivers on track, because he gets to a point, I think, especially in his old age, he just doesn't care. If it's a sprint weekend, goodness me, you might as well count him out. He doesn't want to.
Liam Lawson is there.
Just put Dragovic just his colours, because we can't be bothered. No,
can't happen.
I don't think
we'll never get to F1.
Alonso doesn't necessarily in tough times motivate or gather a team around him. I think he needs positive experiences for it to be all good. So I think that's what I'm saying. I think it needs to be positive for him this year. Not necessarily, winning races all the time or podiums or whatever, but needs to be a positive year for him for 26 to be a good one.
George Russell. Best case scenario, he ousts Mohammed Ben Sulayem, right?
Yep. Writes another letter.
He's a political missile, I think, this year.
I've gone with on the track instead, but best case scenario, he's in a world title fight, but specifically against Max Verstappen. Not only would I just like to see that anyway, but there is a real advantage to him being in a title fight with Max Verstappen, in that if Toto Wolff still has one eye out for Verstappen for a 2026 contract, it's more difficult to negotiate with him when your lead driver is being a nuisance every weekend, and potentially we get more war of words between the two of them. I think outside of it would be good for Russell to be in a title fight anyway, him being up against Verstappen in that title fight might just solidify his position at the team and make negotiations very difficult with Verstappen. As we've said on a previous episode, if Red Bull and Mercedes are battling in any capacity, whether it's team, drivers, it doesn't matter, Toto Wolff and Christian Horner can't help themselves but get involved in a massive scrap with one another. I'd rather be a terrier than a wolf.
Oh, stop it.
Precisely. So, I think that would be best case scenario. Worst case scenario, and again, this isn't a prediction, but there is a version, I think, that is a little bit likely. Kimi Antonelli is the best rookie we've seen since Lewis Hamilton. If we get that, and
Clip
Antonelli,
that.
I'm not predicting it. Teammate wars later this month, though. I'm going to be so boring now when we get to that. If Kimi Antonelli is great from the off, then suddenly he might already be the future of the team. Who knows? But that just speeds up the process. And if Kimi Antonelli is the future, and you have maybe interest with Max Verstappen, George Russell is going to be, hello, still here, please.
Prig is writing letters.
He probably would, to be fair. He's got to watch out for Antonelli. If the hype is real, he's going to be quick from the off. He'll be hoping that he takes longer to adjust than that, and he's not as on the ball after one season as maybe some people think he will be. But that's the worst case scenario. Sam, back to you. Speaking of, give me Antonelli.
Oh, it's me. Best case scenario, he is cast as Baby Mario in the new Mario Luigi film.
I mean, best case scenario,
already.
Mercedes know who he is.
Oh, hello, it's me. No, not Lewis Hamilton.
How's it going?
There's something different about you, Lewis.
No.
It's me. Is it the hair?
Not from a Stevenage.
I love the idea that Kimi Antonelli goes, what Stevenage is 18 years old from Italy. That's really, I hope he gets his own parking space outside Asda.
Free parking.
He hasn't already got one, sorry. It's just Lewis's name. Best case scenario for Kimi Antonelli, he becomes the best rookie that we've seen since Lewis Hamilton. If all the rumors are true, if all the speculation and chat about Kimi Antonelli is real, if it comes to fruition, it isn't just exactly that chat, then he could be the next big thing. He could be the next world generational talent that we see come through Formula One. You know, we've had Vettel, we've had Hamilton, we're having Verstappen now. And there's a lot of brilliant young drivers in Formula One at the moment who are wanting to put down their legacy, make their mark in history of the sport. Norris, Leclerc, Russell, to name a few. But if Kimi Antonelli can live up to the hype, he could supersede all of them. He could leapfrog all of them into being the person that is the next name that we all go down and know. And that is lofty expectations. That is a very high ceiling, but with great power comes great responsibility, and he will need to deliver on those rumors, those expectations. And Mercedes need to make sure that he feels comfortable in doing so. So I can imagine that FP1 in practice, Australia, he will literally not break for the entire lap to make sure he's in purple at all sectors. He goes on to beat George Russell across the whole season, and he becomes the very young but incredibly talented leader of that team and puts Russell's career at major risk, which would be devastating for George. Worst case scenario, all the pressure gets to him. He is an absolute wreckfest for the season. He cannot compete with the likes of George Russell and those around him. He costs Mercedes points left, right, and centre. He racks up a huge bill. And whilst I don't think he would be dropped, I really do think that he would have to crash out of pretty much every single race to be dropped. I do think that there is a chance that they essentially see him as a placeholder of a seat for a couple of years until someone like a Max Verstappen or whoever it may be in future comes along to fill that seat. I guess if it was absolutely awful, Valtteri Bottas could come in and sit in the job and they have a great time. But considering that Toto Wolff hates Valtteri Bottas from the quotes that I've heard in the press recently about his ugly, stupid mullet and his naked bottom calendars, which I've got one right there, he will never get in that seat ever again anyway. So Kimi's probably safe.
Harry, we've already had a look at anti-Tsunoda. Now the actual Tsunoda. What have you got?
Best case scenario for Yuki Tsunoda is the worst case scenario for Liam Lawson. Lawson has a terrible start to the year, terrible half a year. Tsunoda continues to perform as he was in 2024. And Christian Horner and Helmut Marko go, we've done it again, boys. We've made the wrong call. And they swap him mid-season. Lawson goes back to Minardi, and Tsunoda is promoted to Red Bull mid-season. That is
a question on that.
No.
Okay.
You can go on.
Oh, thank you. Do they need to be somewhat in a title fight for them to make that move in that scenario?
I didn't do it last time.
I was going to say it's not stopped them before, but I in the context of it, I think potentially because that's the reason they got rid of Perez. They lost the constructors because Perez didn't perform good enough. And beforehand they weren't in the fight, but it was trying to prepare themselves for when they were in the fight, and they didn't work because they ended up signing Perez. So I guess that would force them. If they were horribly off the pace all season, then I bet they would keep him. If Lawson was having a terrible season. So Yeah, that's a fair point. I think they probably have to be competitive. So yeah, best case is Tsunoda is as good as he was last year, and he's hoping Lawson's terrible. His worst case scenario is that Hadjar comes in and whoops his ass, because that is career over. He packs his bags.
Full career over or Red Bull career over?
I'd say full, because I'm not sure. I think that ruins his reputation. He's missed the opportunity to go to Red Bull. He's been not chosen to go there. If then Hadjar comes in and kicks his butt, I just don't see what team's going to turn around and go, that's the driver for me, because who would? So that is the worst case. I think he'd have to go. He'd at least be out for next year, whether it's full F1 career over and he could come back for it. It remains to be seen. But yeah, that is absolute worst case. Because I just don't think he'd recover from it.
I'll round things off with Nico Hülkenberg, of course, now of Sauber after having made the move. Best case scenario, I think, for him is that he remains one of the biggest forces in the midfield, as we've seen him with Haas, definitely in 2024 and somewhat in 2023 when he was able to show it in qualifying. If he's able to just put himself, I'm not expecting him to get that elusive podium in 2026. Of course, 2025. If he does get the opportunity, then, fingers crossed for his side that he's able to take advantage of that. But in reality, it's just going to be staying sharp almost ahead of 2026. We know that he's another driver to have a rookie teammate in Bortoleto, and they're going to be teammates for at least 2 years because Bortoleto's got a multi-year deal, as does Hülkenberg. So it's important that from the off, Hülkenberg doesn't let Bortoleto gets too confident. Of course, Bortoleto is going to be incredibly motivated, as it has been his dream forever to drive for stake. So I don't know if he's going to be able to compete with that, but good luck to him.
Ferrari offer him a 10-year deal. Now I'm all right.
I'm not leaving. quote retweet Sergio Perez.
Till I die. Worst case scenario for Nico Hülkenberg is that the move that he has made doesn't work out through no fault of his own. It would suck for Nico Hülkenberg. If he was still as good as he was last season at Haas, and it just doesn't work out for him. You look at what if Haas keep improving and suddenly they're able to pick off the occasional podium and Sauber aren't there. That would hurt quite a lot for Nico Hülkenberg, who has been trying a long time to get that elusive podium. The saving grace, of course, of 2026 should be that the Audi are coming, and they're going to be based in the UK now, apparently, or at least somewhat, based on recent news about moving from Switzerland. But yeah, I just, if that doesn't work out as well as them not being good in 2025, that'll sting, to put it mildly. Let's take our second break on this episode. On the other side, we've got some comments from Pierre Gasly about Alpine. Welcome back, everyone. Pierre Gasly has set an ambitious target of a top 5 finish for Alpine in the 2025 F1 Constructors' Championship. After a tough season that saw Alpine stuck in 9th, a double podium in Brazil boosted them to 6th. Thanks to that Interlagos result, they were the 5th highest scoring team after the summer break. When Gasly was asked, he said, "I'll go with a top 5 in the Constructors because that's what I want, and I think that's definitely achievable. Obviously, I'd like more, but I have to be realistic. It will be a tight competitive field, and I don't expect big changes from last year." Sam, as mentioned, they were, if you look at points after the summer break, they were in that 5th spot, albeit a long way from the top 4. Can they be the team that emerges from this midfield and get what Gasly hopes?
Now, as the resident sausages fan here, the Gasly fanboy, I'm all for this fighting talk. I absolutely love that he's, put down a marker for the team, and the team probably do need something to aim for. They're a bit aimless, I would argue. That's a polite way to describe Alpine. Lost a little bit in terms of where they're going with things. My one issue with this, Pierre, as much as I love that ambition, it's for the wrong year, mate. this year, now is not the time to focus your efforts on what you're doing. Now is not the time to drive forward for, jumping up that table and securing regular points finishes, unless an upgrade is directly related to the 2026 and onwards car. I don't think you should care. You should sit there and almost come out and say, I don't care how bad this year is, Alpine, I'm challenging you that when we start 2026, we are fighting for podiums, or we are regularly qualifying inside the top 8, and I want to be finishing inside the top 6. It should not be about this year, because this is that short-mindedness that we've spoken about. So many teams are not going to be focusing on this one year. And so if you are going to focus on just this one year and trying to finish 5th, it says to me that almost you haven't been ambitious enough. If you're going to be the one team that's going, right, we're going to move up the table, well, you may as well go further. In the grand scheme of things, Aston Martin weren't actually that far down the road in how many points were technically available if you were of that level the whole season. You could have achieved more. You could have been in front of them comfortably. So I love the idea. I just don't think this has been correctly executed. And I do think that Alpine, who need a massive rebuild, need this to be more in place and have stronger foundations for 2026, rather than just trying to comfortably be in 5th place throughout 2025. It feels a bit short-sighted.
Harry, do you think that 5th place is achievable?
It's achievable. Whether Alpine can achieve it is another question. Look, you base it on their performance by the end of 2024. You'd say yes, they should be in a position to now challenge for that top 5. If the state of play is the same as it was by the end of last season. The problem is Alpine never seem to turn up to the next season in the same competitive state they left the last one. And as you said, Sam, I'd be really surprised if they were really focusing their efforts that much on this year anyway. So great to have ambition, Pierre. Fab. And admire it. You wouldn't want your F1 driver any other way. But whether it's a realistic target or not, I don't know. He says top 5. It'd have to be 5th. I mean, Alpine are incapable of finishing anywhere other than above 5th, or if they're Renault. So, it's. I find it tricky to see them. They're certainly going to be in that fight with Aston Martin, I think, for that 5th place. If you go on the basis of last year, it's just about who's willing to sacrifice 5th for 2026. And I'd say Aston Martin will be like, fine, you know what, Alpine, you have it, because we're not focusing on this year. And I fear Alpine will get into a fight and then not focus on next year. And then be terrible in 2026 with all the promise of this year. It's a real tricky one. It's a real tricky one for all these teams to aim for. Do you sacrifice this year and go for next year, or do you go for a championship battle? Sometimes it works out. Red Bull in 21 converted into 22. BMW in 2008 did not convert into 2009. So it's a real risk, and it's one Alpine. All the teams have got to face with one Alpine is a tricky one, because yes, they could have a better year than they've been having, and certainly some success would not be, frowned upon by Alpine. But it's almost the wrong year to have it, as you said, Sam.
You know the meme of the stick figure massively celebrating 3rd place, like the bronze medal?
Yes.
That'll be Alpine and 5th, won't it?
Yeah, champagne being popped in their face and everything.
Yeah. God damn it.
Swearing at all the other competitors like they've absolutely won the world.
When you've looked at a word too many times and now it just doesn't look right. Mm-hmm. I've done that with the word achievable, to the point where I've actually I'm in the process of creating a game called Eddie-cheevable.
Nice.
Which nice. I think has legs,
What's the concept of this game,
Eddie-cheevable? does have legs.
So. I'll be real. This concept's 30 seconds old, Harry, so I'm not sure about the rules yet.
Sounds like all of our games.
But I'll get back to you.
Cheers, mate. Let me know.
Yeah. I think it is achievable for him and them, I should say.
The man.
Sorry, Jack, I'm sure you will contribute as well. That wasn't an unintended burn, I promise you. It wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if any of the bottom 6 teams finish 5th. I know a lot of attention is currently going to the top 4 teams and whether we could have a championship fight between all 4 of them or 3 of them or even 2 of them. Further back, we could have some very interesting fights in the midfield because I don't think any team in the midfield will be unhappy with their lineup, genuinely, apart from maybe Briatore wishing he was quicker about Colapinto. But outside of that, I think all of the teams will be happy about where their lineup is going into the season. And all teams, weirdly, I think, have a reason to be optimistic. Like Alpine, for example, we've already mentioned they were 5th in the second half of the season. And a lot of people will say, well, Brazil, so many points came from that race that kind of masks it. Well, they still finished the year really well, if by comparison to where they were earlier in the year, I should say. But Gasly did very well at Abu Dhabi. He was looking all right in Vegas before the car retired. He was good in Qatar. Like, he had a number of good races to finish this season. In fact, like the last 5 races, even if you were to take out Brazil, they would have still been 6th and only 1 point behind Haas. So they were good even with that freak result. Haas have reason to be optimistic as well, though. They scored in 8 of the last 9 races. RB, weirdly, I think, have reason to be optimistic because they're following Red Bull a bit more this season. Red Bull, of course, better than all the teams we're discussing here. Williams, even though their focus is on 2026, they scored more in the second half than they did in the first half. And even Sauber, if you were to say what were Sauber's 3 best races of 2024?
The last 3.
The last 3.
The last 3.
Yeah. And look, they weren't brilliant, but Bottas got a Q3. Joe scored some points. Bottas should have scored some points probably as well. So I think all of them have at least a little bit of a reason to be optimistic going into the season.
Ben, sorry, do you not just think that we're going to see a bit of a race to the bottom? The perks of being further down the championship outweigh for the next 2 or 3 years what you might get for fighting over an irrelevant 5th place. Surely to be bad is then to be good in that respect.
Yeah, I think what's probably going to be most interesting is, again, we've spoken about this before, how everything resets like 6 months into the year. So you kind of want to be really bad just before the midway point in the season and then be okay the rest of the season, because you'll get advantage with more wind tunnel time. And yet maybe you could still finish higher in the championship if you have all your points in the second half of the season. But
Alonso after the summer break going, we had 8 gears.
I was still driving my old car from when I debuted.
What do you mean we could have put 4 tyres on?
This isn't Minardi? Oh, no!
Why is Mark Webber here?
Oh, what a team.
What a team.
Harry, would 5th be a success? Would you call it that?
I mean, yes, for Alpine, this would be a success. It's getting back to where they've normally been. And the last couple of years have not where they've normally been. So you'd argue, yes, it would be a success, especially consider where they started 2024. I think getting up to 5th in the championship would be. But I come back to it. And you said this sound like the race to the bottom. I fear there'll be lots of teams who will they're not going to willingly give up 5th, obviously. I just feel there'll be teams that will not be as focused on it than others, and maybe Alpine will be the ones that will focus on it, and perhaps for the wrong reasons. So it'll definitely be seen as a success compared to where they've been. It's just about whether it is actually the right success they want. Knowing Alpine, probably it's Alpine.
I'm going to be harsher and say no, Alpine. 5th is not a successful season for you, even if it is relative. If I go to your house and break everything in your kitchen and then replace it all, that's not a success. That doesn't count. Getting back to where you were in the first place doesn't count as a success. We took the mickey out of you for so many years that all you could do was finish 5th. So getting back to finishing 5th, not a success, Alpine. You're not having it that easy, at least not from me. Sam, how much are Alpine relying on Doohan to finish 5th? Like, we saw last year that Aston Martin obviously finished 5th despite Lance Stroll. Could that be the situation here, or do they really need Doohan to perform to get ahead of those other midfield rivals?
I think Doohan needs to deliver a pretty solid performance. I'm not saying he needs to match Gasly. Gasly has the firepower. He is more than capable of, being up there with the top drivers of the season if he's on his very best. You remember a few years ago when he went back to AlphaTauri, it was at the time, he was almost my driver of the season, the way he was driving that car. He was sensational. Qatar, the first time we went there, I think it was, he was pretty much running podium places and had to move out the way for Verstappen. He could do the heavy lifting. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't mean Doohan can sit there on his deck chair all year and kind of put his feet up and have a nice drink in the warm sun. He's going to have to participate. He's going to have to be there or thereabouts. And that's mostly because if you look at the rivals around Alpine, I think everyone else has improved. Haas's lineup in Ocon and Behrman. If Behrman turns good, if he delivers, that's a good lineup for Haas. It's a really solid lineup for Haas. You look at Williams, Sainz and Albon, sensational lineup for a team that can barely score a point race on race. If Hajar is decent, if he's close to Tsunoda, that is fantastic. If they've got that further investment, that further sharing of parts with Red Bull, they're a severe threat. Hulkenberg and Bortoletti. If Bortoletti, who is the F2 champion again, is even as good as we think he should be, those two, so good again. It genuinely is a really tough fight at that back end. This is one of the strongest Formula One fields that we have seen in a very, very long time. We've cut a lot of the crap. A lot of the driftwood has been pushed away. We are streamlined. This is a very, very solid F1 field. If Doohan cannot score points where it's expected, I think Alpine will get found out very quickly. Gasly can only do so much, just like Verstappen in the World Championship last year. He can only do so much to help the team on his own. Gasly is in that same situation.
Okay, let's take our final break on this episode. On the other side, we've got a new game.
Did I say Bortoletto wrong?
You said Bortoletti, but it's fine.
It's a bloody football player, that's why.
Welcome back, everyone. As promised, we've got a brand new game, Formula Fortunes. Of course,
is Vernon Kay coming up?
Wow. The name, of course, based on Family Fortunes here in the UK, Family Feud for those in the United States. I wasn't sure exactly what to go with for a song on this one, for an intro. I figured Family Feud, since that music is still being used and is pretty big, that's our best chance of getting sued. So I decided to put that to one side. And then we've got 3 versions of Family Fortunes in the UK.
Obviously.
The latest of which, presented by Gino D'Acampo, I wasn't aware existed.
Wow.
I don't want that in my life.
So naturally, I passed on that, which brought us to the duel of the century between Vernon Kay and Les Dennis. And despite badgering from Les Dennis, many calls, bartering, trying to get me to play his version of the theme, I have instead gone for, of course, Vernon Kay's version, because Sam Bird.
That goes on a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, crikey. Is it another episode?
You want to hear again?
No.
You should, by the way, you should definitely watch it as well, because the little from Vernon Kay, you'll have to be on YouTube to see that, is quality at the end.
I hope they Photoshop you over the top of it now.
It's incredibly 2010. So the game. We surveyed 135 F1 fans in Discord and asked 8 questions. And your job is to pick out the most popular answer from the people.
God, we could do F1 Pointless here, couldn't we?
We could do.
Another game show to rip off.
The opportunities are endless.
The opportunities for fraud are endless.
So in all of the 8 questions, I will ask you to give me an answer. For those not watching on YouTube, we do have the whiteboards in use again, but of course we'll read out exactly what are on the whiteboards.
No,
just don't say it. If you get the most popular answer, you will get 4 points. If you get the second most popular answer, you'll get 3. third most popular answer, you'll get 2. And the fourth most popular answer, you'll get 1. If you don't get any of them, you get that.
Nice. New sound effect.
Love this. Ben's gone
You
all
wouldn't
out.
steal a game show.
Except he
As
would.
is proven, I would. So the first question,
Okay.
asking the 135 people at Discord, who is the most underrated driver on the 2025 grid?
Oh.
Crikey.
I've just got that music somewhere now.
Down, down.
So good.
Down.
You wouldn't steal a DVD.
Absolute belter of a tune, that is.
So good,
We
isn't
have that for the intro.
You've had the irony.
it? You wouldn't steal an advert's music. Okay.
Underrated
Most underrated. Oh. Okay. I have an answer.
Sam's got an answer. Harry, have you got an answer?
Sorry, I'm just writing it down. Okay.
Also, is this going to be backwards for everyone watching it?
No, because it's a front-facing camera.
Okay.
Unless you've got I don't think so. We'll test this out in a second, but I'm pretty sure it won't.
Reveal your answers, please. So we've got Alex Alban from Sam and Nico Hulkenberg from Harry. So we have got different answers to start us off. For 1 point, 16 people said Esteban Ocon.
Oh, fair enough.
For 2 points, 17 people said Nico Hulkenberg.
Hey, well done, sir.
For 3 points, 18 votes, Carlos Sainz.
Ooh.
But the most underrated driver on the grid with 27 votes. Sausage is out for Pierre Gasly.
Ah.
Which means, Sam.
No points. How do I still get this wrong?
Right, you got plenty of time to make it up. But Harry does take an early 2-0 lead.
Huge.
Question number 2. How many races should there be on the calendar?
What? How many races should there be?
How many races should there be on the calendar?
12, 83, you know.
I would recommend neither of those, but
Can I have no hints, please, Ben?
okay.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Whenever you're ready.
Said that with some determination.
Reveal your answers, please. We've got Sam saying 21.
Yeah, that's got 12 in this reverse camera.
And Harry saying 0.2.
20.
Harry saying 20. For 1 point, 14 people said 18. For 2 points, 15 people said 22.
Oh, Lord.
For 3 points, 20 people said 24.
You're wrong.
But the top answer, with 48 votes, 20.
I got no points again. We jumped around 21, all over the place.
All of the evens. They're all even numbers.
I'm going to end up.
People love an even number, don't they?
Yeah, I did think that the moment I wrote 21, I thought that's going to be ignored.
Shout out to the 5 individuals that put 52.
I'll grow up.
Grow up. Touch some grass.
Yeah, do something for your weekends. Come on.
Well, Harry, you could do a touch of some grass. You're up 6-0.
That's a great line.
Crying.
Question number 3. Which circuit produces the worst F1 racing?
There must only be one answer for this.
Oh, Sam, I forgot to.
Oh, thanks, mate. Cheers. Just right kicking the goon ads, that is.
Yeah.
Rubbing salt into the wound.
Yeah. Kick when I'm down.
All right. Which circuit produces the worst F1 racing? We have got Monaco from Sam. We've got Monaco from Harry. First agreement of the day. For 1 point, 4 people said Abu Dhabi.
Valid shout.
Yeah.
For 2 points, 19 people said Qatar.
Okay, yeah, valid.
So fair.
For 3 points, 22 people said Miami.
You guys know you're racing. I respect this.
But the top answer, 65 votes. Monaco.
You know, Will. Harry celebrates whilst
Harry, I didn't know you hated Monaco so much.
I didn't hate Monaco, but I like points.
I like winning.
Yeah, I didn't say they were right. I just said I got the right answer.
Right, we're at 10-4 now to Harry.
10-4.
Question number 4. Which past driver do you wish you'd seen live?
Oh,
Throughout history.
Throughout history, yes.
We need to remember who our audience is.
yeah. Lovely people is the answer to that.
They are delightful. Oh, I'm torn between 2 here.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I cannot write.
What, generally, or?
Turning into Ben.
I think I'm right, just you can't read it.
Well, that's what I mean.
Defeats the purpose somewhat, but yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. Oh, I've gone for the same.
On with the same one. Out of interest, what were you torn between?
Schumacher and Senna.
Yeah.
I went because of the Netflix show where people were going to have it on their minds.
Well, and Jean-Pierre Jabouille, obviously.
Jabouille!
There was someone, by the way, who put Jean-Pierre Jabouille.
Well, obviously.
Respect to you.
1 point. Fangio, 6 votes.
Grow up.
2 points. Jim Clark, 10 votes.
I respect that.
3 points. 19 votes for Michael Schumacher. And the top answer was 60 votes, Ayrton Senna.
Oh.
So it wasn't close, but yeah. Going well here. We're at 14-8 to Harry. These are scores we've never heard before in these quizzes.
Yeah, wow, this is huge.
Double digits.
Question number 5. Which car manufacturer would you like to see enter F1?
Oh, so many options to be silly.
And to be clear, like the question didn't say you can't pick anyone that has been in F1 before and would be returning. So just anyone who's not there at the moment.
It's got to be Lola, right?
All right, Johnny.
She was a showgirl. That was a Barry Manilow reference.
Harry, we're going to have to sack you soon enough for conflicting interests if you keep talking about Lola.
Have Paddy Power reached out, mate?
They do value my opinion.
Answer?
Yeah.
Good. Let's see them. We've got Porsche from Bo.
Oh, goodness me.
For 1 point, 7 votes for BMW.
Oh, yeah, that's a fair shout.
2 points, 9 votes, a return for Toyota.
Yeah, I thought they'd be on the list.
Big McNish fans.
3 points, 15 votes for Lamborghini.
I did think Lambo.
Yeah.
But the top answer, 4 points, 35 votes to Porsche.
Come on, Porsche, do it for me, please.
Doing well there, guys.
You've done enough in WEC now, guys. You can come over.
You can take the bits off the wheels. Just have them out.
Question number 6. If you had to be stuck on a long-haul flight next to a current driver, who would you pick?
Oh, God.
That's a tricky one.
That is a tricky one.
This one was pretty close.
What, between all the answers or just the top?
There's not much separating all of the top 4 here, to be honest. There wasn't a runaway answer like some of the other questions.
Okay. What route do I want to go down here?
There are so many.
That's the problem. Is someone just wanting someone quiet who they can go to sleep next to? Do they want entertainment? It's all over the place here. You also got to think of who our audience are going to want to put down here.
I've got little belief in this answer.
I also have little belief in this answer.
What are your little believed answers? We've got 1 Hamilton, 1 Leclerc.
Ferrari, basically.
My other answer was Tsunoda.
But then, yeah.
For 1 point, 14 votes for Max Verstappen.
I'm surprised.
I am surprised.
2 points, 15 votes, Lewis Hamilton.
Oh.
I can't wait for Leclerc to not be on the list.
3
He
points.
must be.
16 votes for Fernando Alonso.
You get on the plane, his neck could have the seat next to him.
You move over a bit. Come on.
Can I have a seatbelt extender, please?
But the top answer, 23 votes, went to Oscar Piastri.
Oh, for God's sake.
That is surprising. I thought Norris would be in there.
Yeah, I thought Norris would be in there.
Leclerc was the fifth answer, I'm afraid. So it was very close.
10 points. Then.
Yes. Nope, just this.
Three ball are losing any game we play. Can't even win now.
No, never mind. 2 more to go. Question number 7. Who will be the next new F1 world champion?
Oh.
Just want to comment that my answer on my board does not confirm my true beliefs.
It does. I'm afraid that's how it works. All right, have you got your answers?
Yes.
We've got Piastri and Norris. Piastri for Harry, Norris for Sam. For 1 point, only 2 votes for the 4th place answer here. You could have either said George Russell or his teammate, Andrea Kimi Antonelli.
Oh, that's not a good sign for George Russell.
Oh dear.
For 2 points, 30 votes, Oscar Piastri.
Nice.
For 3 points, 38 votes, Lando Norris.
Yay!
And Charles Leclerc was the top answer, 4 points, 47 votes.
Oh, it feels good to be on the board again.
Which brings us to our last question.
What's the
Question
points?
number 8. The points are 24 to 15.
Oh, I've still got it in me.
I believe in you.
Double points for the last round, isn't it?
All right,
that
buddy.
wouldn't make a difference, I'm afraid. Question number
We're
8.
gonna miss.
Who should be the next FIA president?
Oh,
This is open
This
to
could be
absolutely anyone.
oh, God. Oh, for God's sake, who's it going to be?
There could be. This could be
There
literally.
were a lot of answers.
Okay. It's the sound of Sam writing there, everyone. For you ASMR lovers out there.
I'm ready to go.
Okay.
Let's see him. We've got Barry Manilow from Harry and me, Ben Hocking from Sam.
Ben brackets Hocking.
not
Get
so
confused. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Some honourable mentions just before we go into the top 4 here. 1 vote each for Ned Flanders, the spaghetti dinner lady, and Mr. Bean.
I love spaghetti dinner lady.
2 votes. Unbelievable. These 2 people both got 2 votes. So if you're one of the people who said these 2 answers, you've got a twin out there. 2 votes each for John Cena and Barack Obama.
Can't see me.
What a combo that is. A duo for the ages.
And very nearly making the list, 5 votes each for George Russell and Clive Spigglesworth.
Woo! Go on, Clives. I'll let him know later in the Daily Sam. Was that me? Shut up, Clives.
But the top 4 answers, for 1 point, 9 votes went to Gunter Steiner.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Boo.
For 2 points, 10 votes to Sam Sage.
Woohoo! Yes!
That's a worry.
Can be you 2 above me.
For 3 points, with 14 votes, was myself.
Yes!
And if you think Harry's the top answer, you're wrong. For 4 points.
Is it Harry Manilow?
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's actually a semi-serious
Oh,
answer.
okay, fine.
30 votes for Sebastian Vettel.
Oh,
Yeah,
fair.
that would
Yeah,
be
well
nice
done.
to see.
You know what? By being serious, you've done a good job there because that's a very valid answer.
Which means the final score, 24 to Harry, 18 to Sam.
I'll take it. I'll be your deputy to being his deputy.
So, okay. So then Clives is the deputy of the deputy of the deputy.
So, yes. So in this household, we've got the deputy, and the deputy.
Damn. loaded. Well, there you go. The first and maybe only, but maybe not.
That's a regular thing. I enjoyed that way too much.
What was it called?
The Formula Fortunes.
Formula Fortunes, that's it.
If you'd like to come up with another theme song that isn't just the rip-off of another theme song, you can send them into our email. You're more than welcome. We've got Show Me the Options for a reason. Send them in. Be creative.
I'm also
for TV. He's a legend.
I'm confident that wrong answer jingles sound effects can be used for many things to come as well. Not just.
I didn't give you one for the last round. Hang on. There you go.
He's on the board.
Yes, podcast at latebreaking.co.uk for anyone that wants to put your submission in for a new theme for that game. That, of course, was a new segment, but we can maybe go to an old segment that's been around a little while, a segment that one might call the greatest segment in all of podcasting. It is the
LB question of the week.
This week, we went with the question, with Lewis Hamilton and Angela Cullen reuniting at Ferrari, what will be F1's next reunion?
I've got to give it to my guy Mike, who comes out with hopefully Sam and Uncle Tim. I've met that man once in 20 years.
It's not a real man. Paid actor.
What a hug that man gives as well.
Yeah, great actor. Shout out to EH Green on Instagram for Nick Heifeld on a tree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Niche 2006 reference there, but love that.
Man who sits under a tree. I want to give a shout out to Chris. I think I say your name, Elug. Sorry if I've got that wrong, Chris, probably. On Instagram, who said, Lola, she's a showgirl and Tony who tends the bar, but this guy Rico just keeps getting in the way, which is a fantastic Copacabana reference. And we love that.
Caroline Gilmer on Instagram as well saying Ben Sulliam and his beloved Saudi Arabia brackets who have reinvested a lot, you know.
I hadn't thought about that.
They
That's
have.
a great point.
It's such a niche joke.
No, it's good. Never die.
Because all of our other jokes aren't niche, very famously. Shout out to Tyler's answer. I don't know.
I love those sorts of
Love
answers.
the honesty.
Thank you.
I got no idea, guys.
This is absolutely savage from Daniel Goodwin on Twitter. Pierre and his hair throughout the season.
No need for
Pierre
that.
Gasly.
No need for Pierre Gasly.
Sid Gasly. Alex Campbell on Instagram says Mika Hakkinen and the grid.
I like that one.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And a sabbatical. Here he comes, Mika.
Of course, we can't do a question of the week without a reference to Otmar. Johnny McDonald on Twitter has said, Otmar with his 9 children. The daycare bill is racking up now, Otmar.
It must be. One from Dudu that was Albon and the Williams social media team.
Oh.
Who's that?
Ironically, I'm looking at a post from them and there is no Albon in it already. Like, how many times? Let the man live.
There's a couple of shout outs for me and the fire alarm.
Yeah,
bring it back. Man. Also, don't bring it back.
Don't bring it back because it's loud. It also doesn't exist where I live anymore. So
yeah, you'll get burned down.
A couple of semi-serious ones just to get those in there because we kind of have to at some point.
Yeah.
Both Kyle and Jorge said Verstappen and Newey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which, that would be pretty epic. And also, whether this is a joke or real, I'm not too sure. But Fred the Red, Lewis and his qualifying pace.
Ooh, I like that. Final one from me on Instagram from Matt Troost, who said Martin Brundle and Machine Gun Kelly.
What a team.
What a grig walk that was.
My final one is from CMB on Instagram, who says Fernando Alonso and Jensen Button, brackets, the only teammate Fernando's ever liked.
Brackets, he weed in your seat.
I believe CMB is Bungers.
Oh, is it? Bungers, I'm so sorry.
I did have one more, which was from Gem. Uno reverse card. Milk chocolate or dark chocolate digestives for dipping in tea, ?
I'll always go milk chocolate, personally. I don't mind a dark chocolate digestive, but milk chocolate is the way.
Nah, dark chocolate all the way, mate.
You don't even like tea, bugger off.
I do. I'm a tea convert.
Are you really?
No.
Yeah, I know.
believe it.
I know.
Even though you think you're 8 years old. 8 years old, you've not told me you're a tea convert.
It's only very, very recently, but I still have coffee in the mornings. Very much coffee during the day. I did notice
you say the other day, yeah, I'll go make myself a brew. And I thought you only use the word brew for a cup of tea. So maybe you're just using it for the wrong drink.
Don't mind a little evening tea, you know? I've all come round to it.
Milk?
I do have milk, yeah.
Sugar?
One sugar.
Wrong.
Sugar. Okay.
Incorrect.
I have one sugar in my coffee because I'm a child, so.
You do. We have work to do, folks, but he's growing up.
Progress has been made.
Our boy's becoming a man.
And on that bombshell.
On that bombshell, indeed.
Good night. No, we're not stopped here. As much as I wish we were.
One of your outros should just be the Jessica theme. Like,
yeah, maybe for our 750th episode, that's how we'll celebrate.
We'll miss it, mate.
That's coming up.
We'll miss it.
753 or something, we'll remember.
Yeah.
Folks, thanks again for listening to a lovely off-season F1 podcast. Let us know what the best and worst situation could be for us three on the show. If you want to get involved, probably that we are involved in some horrible scandal and we are all going to be bankrupt come the end of the year, which would be fantastic. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is we continue making episodes for you. Thanks for listening. You can join Patreon using the link in the description below where you get loads of good stuff. Everything's ad-free, bonus episodes, beer breaking, classic Grand Prix, birthday shout-outs. The list goes on. And it costs you less than a cup of coffee, especially if you're in America, because those things are expensive. You can also join Discord. So if you're going to be involved in that little game that Ben put together, Formula Fortunes, well, that list went into Discord, and that's how you get your answers in. And also during the season, that's how you get your submission in, and you get shouted out on the show as well. So make sure to join that. Follow us on social media, Late Breaking F1 Podcast, on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can watch this very recording and see our whiteboards being held up to our faces. We are incredibly handsome, so I would urge you to go and watch that immediately. And that's it from us. We'll be back at the weekend for another brilliant off-season episode. In the meantime, I've been Samuel Sage.
I've been Ben Hocking.
And I've been Les Dennis.
I remember. Les.
Big up, Les.